Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's another episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, joined with my co-hosts, Zach and Emmett. Today, we've got a very, very special guest joining us, current defensive coordinator of the Memphis Showboats in the UFL, all-around good dude, defensive wizard, Coach Jarren Horton. Coach Horton, thanks for taking some time and joining us today. We really appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Not a problem. Our pleasure. Zach, Emmett, thanks for joining. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great as always. Can't believe we're almost to week 3 of college football. Obviously, you have the NFL Thursday night football going on between the Packers and the Commanders. So obviously excited about that. Just love football in general and excited to have Coach Horton on to talk a little bit more about the defensive side of things, which is really exciting and pretty complicated.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be on. Like Zach said, we're approaching week 3 rapidly and very excited. Obviously, kind of the easiest game left on Michigan State's schedule with Youngstown State, so very excited to see that. Hopefully get to see some young players get their first game action. Very excited for that, but yeah. Also, prayers up for Jaden Reed. We're recording this about a couple minutes after I was about to say right around halftime of the Green Bay game. We don't know the status of him, but did not look good on first watch.
Yeah, for those who didn't see it, Jaden Reed caught a touchdown pass that was called back, and it looks like his weight and the corner's weight landed on his shoulder. Obviously not a doctor, but didn't look real great. I don't know if it was a pop, AC joint or collarbone issue, but he did not look like he was feeling very good coming out of that. So hopefully everything's good, of course. But thanks everybody for joining us. We wanted to have an episode that we've been thinking about this for a while and wanted to get somebody on who could talk about, kind of the inner workings of football and what it's like for a coaching staff taking over. Obviously, Jonathan Smith at Michigan State in his second year here brought over Coach Rossi as his coordinator last year. So kind of a shift of the program, somebody coming in, installing a new system, trying to change the culture, instill, kind of those core values back into Michigan State football. And the first person I thought of was Coach Horton because he's currently doing the same thing over in Memphis, plus a lot of his fundamental core values of, family atmosphere and fundamentals and all that sort of stuff kind of rings true to Spartan football. So I reached out and he was gracious enough to join us and kind of talk about that. So we'll start there. So Coach Horton, again, thanks for joining us. I guess my first question is, when coming over, you spent a lot of time in every, aspect of football. You did some coaching in college too, so you're familiar with the college game. But when coming into a new place like this, what's it like? I guess what's it like trying to establish a new culture, getting your system in, and just kind of the challenges of trying to turn everything over in such a quick time, because college football especially really resets kind of quickly over the summer with recruiting and everything. So what's it like trying to get that done and also getting the players to buy in so quickly?
Yeah, I think in the modern landscape of football, really, because now college is like this where you can get transfers, I think it's important to be able to bring in guys that know you and know your scheme. That's very helpful because if you're going to a new program, usually it's because you've been successful and you're getting a new opportunity at like a bigger program or something like that. Bringing guys that you've been with helps the guys that are on the team already kind of buy into the new scheme, or how the coach talks, how the coach treats the team, this, that, and another thing. That for me has been very beneficial to kind of accelerate things, if you will, and get it moving faster to where you can kind of be where you want to be sooner. Instead of it happening maybe like week 8, 9, 10, you can kind of hit the ground running kind of a little bit more. But I think it's also being authentic and like being true to who you are and not kind of changing. Just, I think people want authenticity, and that goes a long way with in college, 18 to 22-year-old young men.
Like you talked about obviously being authentic. You talked about scheme going from place to place. When you make that jump or you go from one team to another team, do you kind of keep the same type of scheme? Do you make any like changes, adjustments, or does it truly depend on what you kind of have at that team and just kind of want to see exactly like what type of playmakers you have, like what is like the style of play, like who's physical, who's not physical. Is it truly trying to adapt these new players and this new team to more of what you've been successful in the past? Because if you jump from team to team, or if you jump from one league to another league, there's going to be probably some sort of connection. There's going to be people that have seen stuff that you've done prior.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think as far as like defensively, I am a 3-4 odd front person. Like that's what I run, and that's kind of like what I believe in. I don't think that it's right or wrong. It's just what I like. And for that, I need different type of D lineman than a 4-3. I need a bigger, true nose tackle that's can hold double teams all day. I'm not really looking for guys that can get upfield and kind of create lanes. So if I went to a team that had a whole bunch of was a 4-3 team and had all of those type of players, I would run more 4-3 initially while trying to like recruit guys that fit my scheme and what I want to do. But that kind of goes back to the transfer portal. Like you can really flip a roster really quickly now in modern college football. But I think most people on defense, at least, like you're gonna have enough of everything on the back end, like coverage wise. Like most people are gonna run enough zones, enough man coverages, and enough pressures to where you can kind of, what I say is like major, like we're going to major in cover 3 or we're going to major in Tampa. Like those you can kind of mix and match. Whereas I think the front is a little bit more like we're looking for these type of guys. Okay. But long story short, I would say it's definitely a combination of both. Like you don't want to just go in and force your scheme on a roster that doesn't fit that scheme.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense.
Speaking of that, one of the challenges that the Michigan State defense had last season was they established the new edge rusher position as opposed to just having your traditional defensive end for a 4-3, for example. What is the challenge, like you mentioned with the nose tackle, what is the challenge up front when you're trying to get that guy to fit that position? But obviously, you only had really 1-2 portal cycles to complete it. So you saw the Spartans attack that edge rusher position during the spring. So what is that challenge when you have to work with the bodies you have to try to create your scheme and roll for that?
Yeah, I think if you are not able to find like a quote unquote game changer, especially at like edge rusher, you have to be a lot more creative in how you're getting pressure on the quarterback. And that might mean you have to blitz a little bit more, but then you better have some good DBs that can cover. So it's kind of a give and take. It's really easy to have all the answers when you have, like in Green Bay, they just got Micah Parsons. Like that helps. Like good players make it really easy to coach. So I think it makes you be more creative and try to find more ways to kind of create pressure, like especially at edge rusher. But then at the same time, when you're in year one, you don't necessarily have the time or reps to continue to add more stuff on guys because they're just like, wait, we just learned cover 3. Now we're learning this pressure and all these different patterns. Like you kind of have to pick your spots of how much you want to install. And so it kind of goes hand in hand. Like once you get deeper into a team, as far as like year 3, year 4, and those guys have been in that scheme and system, you can build and build and build, and you can have a lot bigger of a menu. But year 1, your menu's probably a lot smaller because they don't have anything to fall back on. Oh, remember when we against Minnesota in week 10 in 2023 when we ran this coverage, and the guys are like, oh yeah, I remember that. You don't really have to like install a whole new coverage. You can just be like, this is what we're doing, and they remember.
Okay. And then I think another issue the Spartans faced was injuries during year 1 of the rebuild. Obviously, what's the challenge, especially being secondaries coach, when you're trotting out those true freshmen? You know, what I was about to say, during your time as a secondaries coach, what is that challenge when you have to throw out the true freshmen into the fire, basically?
Yeah, when you're playing with young guys, it's some of them can come in and like play right away. Not many. It's especially at DB because there's a lot of nuances to it, and the difference from playing in high school, even at a high level in high school, to now playing in a power conference like the Big Ten, where you got NFL guys probably every week. Most teams have like at least one NFL guy. Some teams have multiple. And some of those guys are in year 3 or year 4 of college. So they know the nuances of how to get open and how to separate and stuff like that. So a lot of times with true freshmen, like depending on how deep they were on the depth chart, they might have been on the scout team like right after camp broke. So yeah, they learned during fall camp, but then they went onto the scout team for 4 or 5 weeks and completely forgot what your defense is. So now you're kind of teaching on the fly, and it's like, I'm just trying to get him to understand, all right, we're playing Tampa 2 and he's a flat player, but he's playing man coverage facing this guy all the way across the field. So playing with true freshmen, that can be a true challenge.
You talked a little bit about how there's not a ton of freshmen that really can kind of like get in and like play. Do you think it's like a mentality type thing? Do you think it's kind of just how fast like the freshmen might learn just that defense, the scheme compared to maybe other freshmen? What are like some kind of like characteristics between maybe a freshman that can play like right away that might be able to step in and contribute versus a freshman that might take a little bit longer to get things going?
I think typically there are 2 reasons. One is a guy's not physically ready yet. Like he needs to get bigger, stronger, faster. And that's why a lot of guys redshirt to get in the weight room and gain good weight, muscle, and all that. And some guys might not, like, depending on the high school program, you might only play one coverage on defense. Like some teams just play man or just play cover 3. And I think in today's world that's less common, but there are still some guys, especially at smaller schools, and not saying that like there aren't, it's all small schools, but a lot of times in smaller high schools, you will get that where they only run one coverage or something like that. So now you're going from that to a college playbook, which is extremely expansive. And instead of just playing man on man, like, oh, I got that guy. Now I'm like, well, you got that guy in this coverage, but then if they come out in this formation, then you have to tweak your leverage or you have to tweak your assignment. So like there can be a learning curve if you've never like experienced football that way and like teaching football that way. There can be an extreme learning curve to where you might not get it until fall camp your second year after you do spring ball, and then you go into fall camp again.
Yeah. And I know the saying is there's no, replacement for just reps and repping it and detailing it. But for people coming in or for coaches that have a lot of new players coming in, is there kind of like a better, well, I don't want to say better, but like a kind of a hack or kind of a nice little tip you give for players that maybe like aren't going to get all the reps right away or, may be able to speed up the process some way? Is it just like more studying? Is it like tape, film? Like what's the best way to maybe help speed that learning curve for someone who, is trying to get on the field as soon as possible?
I think that is like person specific, kind of player specific. Mm-hmm. Like as a coach, you need to figure out how everybody learns. Some guys learn from seeing film. Some guys learn from like hearing it verbally. Most guys learn from being on the field, but that's kind of, it's interesting because I think that was definitely common like maybe 10 years ago, maybe eight, like 5 to 10 years ago. More players really learn like physically doing the rep on the field. But I've kind of learned that now players are more visual. Like they want to see it on film. And I think this is my opinion, and I'm probably wrong because I'm not very smart, but I think it's because of like, we're so used to having screens in front of us. And like, I mean, right now I have 2 computer monitors, an iPad, and a phone like in front of my face. So like, I kind of think it's like that to now when players are, especially in college, they're 18, 22 years old. They've had access to that their entire lives, and that's how they learn. So I think it's finding how that person learns. And if it's a guy that learns from physical reps, then he's got to take advantage of every single rep, and especially the walkthrough reps. But it's just how to figure out how guys learn.
And yeah, you mentioned the screen thing too, with COVID just being a thing of the past. These kids are coming out of, school where they had to kind of mandate, learning through virtual atmospheres. It's probably more second nature for them nowadays than it would be for someone, like you and I are about the same age. We didn't have any
Yeah.
of that. So,
Yeah.
but also, you mentioned, finding out which one or like what each player's, I guess, preference is. Is that something maybe in college you pick up through like a recruiting process and kind of get to know them a little bit better on the recruiting trail? Or is that, maybe speaking to coaches, how do you identify that as a coach?
I think it definitely starts in the recruiting process and just kind of getting to know someone. You ask them questions. I think when you get them on campus and you can get them like in a meeting room, that's when you really kind of find out, and like you can quote unquote like get your hands on them to touch to like teach them and kind of figure out how their brain works, if you will. But it really happens over the first couple weeks of camp or spring ball if they're early enrollee. Um, it really takes them a little bit of time to kind of get to know the player and how they learn.
Right. That makes sense.
And speaking of the recruiting process, obviously you've gone through it, you've been a college coach yourself. What is it like when you get that big recruit, that priority recruit that you've been after? Like, you're like, I really want this guy. Like, when you finally get that call, that text saying, hey, I'm coming to your school, is it like your fist pumping? Like, is it like celebrating? Is it like just like what's the reaction, or is it more just like, okay, cool, let's just get to work on these other priority recruits that we have?
I think it's different for every program. I've been at programs where like when a guy commits, like it's a big deal and everyone's hyped up and like you said, like clapping and cheering and all that. But I've also been at programs where it's like, oh, so this guy commits, like, oh, okay, let's do whatever. So like from my understanding of like of Coach Smith and that staff, that they get pumped up. Like from my understanding, I know Coach King, one of the strength coaches on staff, and he speaks highly of Coach Smith and the program, really. So I like it when you get excited because it's exciting. Like I want to sign a big marquee sign it high school enrollee or transfer whatever it is. Like good players win games. Like yes, coaching helps, but good players are going to allow you to do a lot more as a coach, and they make you look good. Like it's hard to look bad when you got really good players.
Right.
So one question I had on the recruiting trail, one thing you see that Jonathan Smith and staff prioritize is these multi-sport athletes. Really, what is the value for the high school students that don't just prioritize football? They go and play basketball, they go and play baseball, for example, they run track. What is that benefit in terms of having that athletic background?
I think track is a really big one personally because it's running and form and explosiveness. But I think that being a well-rounded athlete just helps you be a well-rounded athlete. And like in football, depending on your position, I mean, really any position, when you're playing the game, your body gets put into positions that like you can't replicate really in like a practice or whatever. Like you have to be playing sports to do that. And I think other sports kind of can help you with flexibility and balance and stuff like that, to where when you are playing football and if you get tackled and your body gets kind of bent a weird way, that it doesn't end up injuring you. It might just be like, oh, well, I've worked on my flexibility to be able to have my head touch my knee and it not be an issue. So I think that is something that's important. And I think just like competing in other sports and not specializing in football the way you're training in the off season, but like you're still competing in something else, because at the end of the day, like that's a very important thing, to compete and to try to win.
Yeah, makes sense. Another thing also, since you mentioned the extra flexibility and extra, muscles in areas you don't even think about, that's one thing Jalen Satchel shouted out the strength coaches for, hey, I feel like the biggest difference between 2024 me and 2025 me is just that extra strength I have and muscles that I don't even realize I was really using. So that a priority for the strength coaches to get you to utilize those lesser used muscle groups that you don't even think about come game day to keep the players healthy.
Yeah, it definitely is. And like I said, Coach King, who I was with at the University of Connecticut, and I don't know everything about their strength program, but when I was with him at UConn, he was a big, like they call it like Olympic weight lifting style. And I'm definitely not qualified to talk on this, but what he explained it to me as is it's a lot of free weights, not a lot of machines, and a lot of stuff where you are like on your feet and able to flex and stuff like that, to try to do that, to create balance. And like they were really big on neck strength to help eliminate concussions. I don't know exactly how that works, but there's some science behind it. They're really smart and like have a whole bunch of science degrees and stuff, and I'm like way over my head. Like I don't know how to do all that, but I'll take your word for it.
Keeps the player active.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How important is that connection between the coaching staff and the strength coaches? Because obviously, when you're not with the players at practice, they're either lifting. You also have obviously like the people behind the scenes that are doing like the dietary stuff. Like there's just so much going on that's being put on these athletes. How important is that connection to have everyone on the same like wavelength?
I think it's extremely important. I think that in college football, your head strength coach is one of your most important hires. I think that as the head coach, your strength coach, you need to be like perfectly aligned. Like you need to speak the same message, because like you said, in the off season, the players are with the strength coaches most of the time, and they don't need to know scheme wise what's going on, but they need to be preaching the same message as far as what our not motto, but like what our principles are as a program and what we're preaching. Like what do we want to be? So I think that the strength coach, the strength staff and the coaching staff being aligned is really like an instrument part to success in college football.
Yeah, absolutely.
So speaking of recruiting, I know you had mentioned your time with UConn. We were talking a little bit before the pod started that you were in the coaching staff during one of our current corners, our starting corner, Malcolm Bell, was being recruited for you guys at UConn. I don't know, you don't have to get too in depth or anything, but just what are your thoughts on Malcolm and early returns so far with us? He's looked like a solid addition, and we needed help in the secondary, so gladly taking the help we can get. But what are your thoughts on Malcolm and just how his game maybe will translate to the Big Ten and how he is as a corner?
Yeah, Malcolm, when we were recruiting him, he's Canadian, and I think he's from Montreal.
Yeah, I want to say Montreal.
Yeah,
because he speaks French. He's awesome. I love Malcolm. He's a really outgoing guy. I like soccer, and he likes soccer too. So like,
you mentioned that at his press conference on Wednesday. He just spoke to media. Yeah.
So like, we talked about that a lot and kind of created a good relationship. I think he supported Manchester United, and they're not good right now. So I used to always give him a little bit of stick for that. But he was very raw when he got to us at UConn as an incoming freshman coming from Canada, to where that's kind of like the same thing, like a small school. He was just kind of underdeveloped, if you will, and was skinny, but had length, had good feet, and had the mentality. That was the one thing about Malcolm that I really loved, was his like, he's how you want a corner to think. Like, if you're going to give up plays at corner, but it's kind of like a short memory. And he was this, if someone caught a pass in practice, and he played in a game or two for us his freshman year, but he still redshirted. It didn't affect him, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, he has a good mentality for a corner where he's just going to be, all right, if that happens, good rep for you. I'm going to continue to do my job. But it's not surprising that he is now at Michigan State and in the Big Ten, because the tools were there, and he just had to continue to work on his technique. But I'm excited to see what he can do this year, and hopefully continue his journey after that.
Yeah. He's got that be a goldfish mindset. Not to steal a Ted Lasso quote, but you have to at corner because, like you said,
Yeah.
you're gonna get beat sometimes, and if you can quickly overcome it or just get into the next play, then that works out. It's like being a goalie in hockey. You just got to get over it and call it good.
Yeah, it really is. Like it's part of the job description. You're especially with how the rules are in today's football. Like they want points. They want offenses to get yards and do all that. They're gonna catch passes. Like they're in college now. I always say in the UFL or the NFL, like they're getting paid too, and in college now they are getting paid too.
Yeah,
but like they're gonna make their plays. It's all right. Like, and the other thing is too on defense, depending on the coverage. Like a thing that I like to say is he who defends everything defends nothing. So you can't stop everything. Like if I call cover 2 and they hit the whole shot, hey, good job for them. Like I'll call something different next time. If I call cover 3 and they're catching out routes all day, well, that's on me. I'll call it different coverage. But like, yeah, they're gonna make plays. At the end of the day, it's who makes more plays, and I think at corner, that's kind of how you got to think.
Sorry, Emmett. I know you had one, but what you just said, Coach Horton, reminded me. When you have a team that's going against you that is wildly successful through the air, or maybe hitting quick passes, or getting the ball out really quickly and throwing for 400 yards against the defense, this isn't relevant at all. It's not maybe what happened this past week or anything, but we did get to just witness it with Dylan Lonergan at Boston College. I could, as a fan, I was sitting there frustrated. I could tell even just watching on TV that the defense was getting frustrated because we had no chance to even get to, put pressure on him because he's getting the ball and getting it out so quickly. As a defensive coordinator, what's your goal then to try to get that stopped, I guess, to try to maybe make it uncomfortable and generate a little pass rush when, maybe it's only taken a second and a half to drop back and get the ball out to a receiver on a quick play.
I think there are a few schools of thought there. I think that dropping more guys in the coverage, like doing drop 8 coverages and only rushing 3 to kind of muddy up those windows is a good way to counter that. And then you can mix in your pressure, especially when if you do that, force an incompletion or get them to 3rd and 7, 8 plus to where you can like really get after them and now hit the quarterback. But that's kind of a thing. Like if they are just a dink and dunk offense, you're probably not going to get pressure. And so now you got to figure out, okay, if we're not going to bring pressure and we're going to drop more guys in the coverage, 1, how can we eliminate the big plays? And 2, if they're going to do this, we need to be really, really good in the red zone. I think that's kind of how modern football is. Yards don't matter as much anymore. It's more about points and how good you can be in the red zone and situational football, 3rd down, red zone, stuff like that. To where it's like, yes, it's really nice to hold a team under 300 yards, but it's a lot harder to do that now. And if you hold them to 270 yards and they score 35 points, well, I'd rather hold them to 500 yards and 14 points or something like that. Yeah. I think that it's really that once they get into the red zone, okay, now we really got to make them kick field goals.
Yeah, which makes perfect sense. And then obviously, like Chris was talking about, a little bit of a frustrating game defensively, maybe for fans, especially when you throw for almost 400 yards. But like if things aren't going the way that you want things, or maybe like the game plan isn't working out exactly the way you thought it was, you go into halftime, like how many adjustments are you making throughout the game? Like do you ever just completely like throw out like the game plan and saying, well, this isn't working anymore, let's try this in the second half? Because it's truly a game of chess, right? Like as a defensive coordinator, it's you against the offensive coordinator. Like it's about trying game plan. It's trying about what looks you get, what kind of plays that they run. It's about like all that. And obviously you mentioned that you're going to get some wins. They're going to get some wins. Like that's just the game of football. Like how much chess is really happening? How much is the game plan really changing? Or is it more of like just small, minute changes that you might look and see on TV and you're like, wow, that's a dramatic change. What really changed? But it's truly 1 or 2 things here and there.
Yeah, I think in my experience, I've been in places that do a little bit of both. I've been in places where like week to week our game plan is like unrecognizable from the previous week. That's kind of how it was when I was at Vanderbilt. Like we were very game plan driven, and like what the opponent does is how we're going to kind of formulate what we do. And like I remember we would put our calls on the board and like erase calls, like, nope, we're not going to run this week. We're not going to run this week. And like it would change every week. Now what I do personally is like what we do is what we do. We might tweak how we're going to run certain coverages week in and week out, and then we'll add like a few scheme dependent type of things. But for the most part, for me, I like to do what we do and kind of be like, okay, we can put our hat on, we can hang our hat on what we do. I think in college is a little different because teams are so different week in and week out. Like, I don't know what Youngstown State does, but just say for
run with their quarterback.
Yeah, a quarterback run game. And last week you played a team that was spread and dinked and dunked and stuff like that. So like you really do have to change your game plan a little bit more in college just because there's more variety in offenses. But like I've definitely been in half times where you quote unquote crumble up the game plan and throw it out and be like, all right, we were going to be playing a whole bunch of Tampa, but no, we're not doing that. We're going to be blitzing every snap. I also feel like it's if you wait till halftime to make your adjustments, then it's too late. Like you have to make them in real time. Maybe not like within a drive because you can't talk to the players within a drive, but like after each drive, you have to be making adjustments of, hey, when they ran these two pullers, I need you to get over that blocker. I need you to get over the center and get into the A gap and not be behind that block because they're hitting it right in that gap. And if you're waiting till halftime to do that, like you're going to reiterate at halftime and kind of like the big talking points. But if you're not doing it in between drives, then they're just going to keep coming back to the same play and just running it over and over and over until you fix it.
Yeah, which makes complete sense. And speaking of Youngstown State, their quarterback has about as twice amount of rushing yards compared to yards that he's thrown. So he's ran for like 409 yards and like I think like 260 yards through the air, which is unique in itself. Like, have you ever faced a quarterback like that has more rushing yards than passing? Because I don't think that's really heard of like very much.
What's the challenge there actually too?
Well,
yeah, and what's the challenge when facing a quarterback that can run more than
I absolutely hate running quarterbacks like with a passion. And I would probably say every defensive coordinator will say that because it throws a complete like just monkey wrench into everything that you're trying to do. Like you can be playing perfect coverage and then everybody's covered and the quarterback just runs around and scrambles for 80 yards. And it's like, well, like what? It's very difficult, and it depends on what type of runner he is. And I guess what I'm saying is like, is he a move the chains runner where he is going to scramble for 8 yards on 3rd and 7, or is he a dynamic, true zone read, QB designed, go for 80 yards on a given play?
He had a 74-yarder last week.
Yeah. So, like, I think those guys that, like, are QB designed runs, you really have to – you're playing your coverages differently. Like, if you're playing single high coverages, you're telling your post safety, we need you to be the extra fitter for quarterback run. Like, when they're doing, like, QB design run game and they're having the running back be an extra blocker, you now need an extra player in your run fit. So you have to play the post safety differently. And if you're playing split field coverage, then you kind of have to treat it a little bit differently and have the safeties be more aggressive on the run fits. And if it's like a creator, if you will, like a backfield creator where he's going to kind of make something happen, then you're probably just going to treat your coverages the same, but you're going to have like a QB spy or something like that, like a linebacker or like an athletic guy spy him. But the one time I've played a quarterback that had more rushing yards than passing yards was against Army. Well, no, twice. We played Army and Navy. Both of those games were like 400 rushing yards.
For for Navy? Would that be Keenan Reynolds?
It was in
I think that's
19.
around him.
We played on Halloween, 19. I don't know if it was Keenan Reynolds. It might have been the year after him.
I was just going to say that sounds about the years that he would play, but last week, Bo Brungard, which is the Youngstown State quarterback, ran for 260 yards.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's scary.
He averages, I believe, over 10 yards per carry, too, so it's not like it's
he is
just running for like 5-6 yards. It's like 10-plus yards every single time.
Yeah, those guys are scary. That's scary. That's scary.
Especially when you have a defense that, like MSU, that struggle to have a pass rush. Do you just kind of like hope that the players, or like just tell the players to like keep in their like lane, like don't like go out of their path and have like a QB spy in that situation for the most part?
Yeah, so like it kind of goes back to what type of runner he is. And in the pass game, is he a guy that's going to drop back and exit the pocket like outside, or is he a guy that's going to drop back and then step up into the pocket and kind of get out from there? And there's two. If you're playing a guy that's rushing outside of the pocket, then you're going to have your ends rush upfield a little bit more and try to get him to step up into the pocket, which he doesn't want to do. And if you're playing a guy that is going to step up into the pocket, then you're going to probably have your ends not rush as far up the field, but then do like some stunts to have guy like the tackle go outside and the end come back inside to make him step up into that. But I think with this guy from Youngstown State, and like I haven't seen any film, but like if he's running that much and he's not throwing the ball, and Michigan State is a bigger school than Youngstown, what I would probably do is I would probably play like a form of quarters where I'm going to basically have my corners outside playing cover zero, and you're just like, you got to lock up that receiver and everyone else is in the run fit. Like I would try to steal an extra hat in the run fit and play some form of like cover zero, because I would imagine that I would think that my corners can handle their receivers for the most part in man coverage. And that would be my game plan without watching film. That's kind of something that I would do if we were facing a true QB designed run team.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. One question I also have. One of the newer rules in college football is that you have the green dot, the player you can communicate to on defense. So what's the value of having both obviously a team leader like Michigan State has Jordan Hall as obviously the primary, he's the green dot and also a captain. What's the benefit of having a player multiple years in the scheme and then being able to communicate everything out with them?
I think it is huge. Like to be able to communicate in real time on the field. In our league, in the UFL, I have 5 players on the field on defense that have the green dot. I have both my safeties, both my linebackers, and my nickel. So I'm talking to all of those guys in real time. And like having one guy helps a lot, because you can make like formation adjustments in real time to where the players don't have to get it as quick. You're talking to them kind of, and like if you notice something, especially like upstairs in the box, like you notice every time that their receiver is lining up like a little bit inside the numbers, they're running a certain thing. Instead of having the players have to see that, you can see it upstairs and you can talk to the guy and be like, hey, this play is coming right now. And like for me, when I have all 5 of those guys, I'll tell them to hold the shell, like hold the too high safety shell, and then when to rotate. Or I'll tell them, like, if I think a play is coming, I'll just be like, for example, we have a player named Eli Walker who's a safety. I'll be like, Eli, blitz. And like, I'll just tell him to go because I think something's happening. So I think that like being able to talk to guys in real time, it makes the game completely different. It's almost like playing Madden.
Yeah. What's the challenge when the NCAA currently only allows one player on field at a time to have the green dot? So what's that challenge when you can only designate one guy to have that green dot?
Yeah, I think it's I would either put it on my inside backer or my safety, one of those 2 guys. I would probably put on a safety because they can see more. But if it's just one guy, which I think it is in the NFL too, it's definitely huge, because now that school down the road, they can't steal your signals. So that's huge. Yeah. Because you can just tell the player and they'll tell the team. So that part is huge. You don't get your signal stolen. And I think with one guy, you're not as much doing as much like big picture stuff with the entire defense, but like depending on who the player is, and like there's two ways. If he's a really instinctive guy, you don't want to tell him too much, but you kind of want to like steer him in the right direction. But also, if you have a guy that needs help, like he's a really talented football player, but he might not see things quick enough, if you put the green dot in his helmet, then you can tell him like, hey, bump to your left, bump right, you got 3. Like you can kind of tell him those things before the snap without overloading him to help him be successful.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was about to say, I think Jordan Hall is kind of that happy marriage of both worlds when you have a player extremely talented, extremely smart. From everything that he said, you can just tell everything he said, everything his teammates have said. He's that guy who you want having that green dot.
Yeah.
And a good leader, too. He's, I would imagine, almost having like a second coach out there where he can just be like, hey, you know, you need to do this, you need to do that, and relay those instructions.
You got to have guys like that. Those guys are huge.
Yeah, he's been my favorite player of the defense for the past few years, and it's just been fun to watch him mature and grow. Speaking of Spartans, I guess I'll transition to a couple more. We got a couple more for you, but you've worked with a couple of Spartans over your coaching career. Any specifically stand out or that were especially fun to work with or anything like that? Obviously excluding Matt Seibert because we know how awesome Matt is, but But yeah, just, you know, your coaching career's expanded across a lot of spots from college to the NFL to everything in between. So just any Spartans that stick out as being fun to coach?
Yeah, I'm not sure if we had any when I was in Cleveland. We probably did, but I can't think off the top of my head. We have our kicker right now is Matt Coughlin, Cogs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cogs,
Spartan
yep.
legend. And
Absolutely.
He's awesome. I love messing around with him, and just specialists are funny. Like they just kind of be chilling. I like when they're fun to talk to. Cogs is cool. And then the other guy that comes to mind is Shakur Brown.
Mm-hmm.
He played corner at Michigan State. I think he played some nickel there too. He played nickel for us, and he was a really I think he was there in the Narduzzi era, maybe after that.
A little after that, he was at the coaching change between. His final year was the first year of Mel Tucker.
Yeah. Okay. So he had a really good football IQ, which for me at the nickel position like that, I need a smart guy at nickel because I asked that player to do a lot. Like I asked him to play underneath zones, I asked him to play deep zones, I asked him to play man, to blitz, to fit in on the run game. And Shakur, which is crazy, is he came to our team like in the season, like week 2 in the season or week 3, and started for us like that week and picked it up really quick and was a good productive player for us. And I remember we had some injuries and our GM was like, okay, well, watch this guy. And I watched his Michigan State tape, and immediately I was like, yes, like this guy will be able to come in and play for us. And he did. He played well. He's definitely a guy that comes to mind when I think of Michigan State, though. Yeah,
I recall watching, like, when I was watching the games just as a fan, it felt like every time he got his hands on a ball, he was a threat to go to the house. I remember he had like 3-4 touchdowns in his career. And 1 or 2 extra called back.
Yeah.
So one question I also have, Nate Carter, I believe you were at UConn when that happened. What was it like when you're preparing the defense to go against Nate Carter, especially if it's the people that haven't seen him before, when it's like first practice of spring with pads on and everything, or first practice of the fall camp? What are you telling your guys when Nate Carter is the guy in the backfield?
Yeah, I think Nate might have been an early enrollee too. I might be wrong, but I think he was. He was there. I was with Nate probably for 3 years, maybe not, maybe 2 years. He was there for like a long time when I was there. But he is put together. Like he is solid. He is not tall, but man, he is put together, and he is strong and tough to bring down, and he's deceptively fast where he can run away from you. Like he's an interesting running back because he's not built like a power back. Like he's not like a big bruiser, but he can get a lot of carries a game and be effective late in the game because he doesn't wear down, which is surprising for a guy he's lean. Like he's very muscular, but he's not like thick, I guess. Like he's very lean. But I love being there with Nate. And like don't know, because he ended up playing like early for us and being our feature back pretty quickly. But how long was he at Michigan State? 2 years, I think. He had 2 years there.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
Yeah, because he had a COVID year and a redshirt year probably.
Yep.
Yeah, and then he did declare with 1 year left. Yeah.
It's wild, man. That COVID year made it so guys were in college forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
We got a 6th and 7th year senior on our roster right now, I want to say.
Yeah. I think the COVID years are just now kind of
finally fading out.
Yeah, I think
This is the
fading
last
away.
year, but you also do have people who have medical red shirts, yeah.
I think when preparing for Nate is like you have to be prepared for a dogfight. Like it's gonna be like he's gonna 25 carries into the game, like he's still running tough. And I think that is something that is you can't prepare for that in practice as far as like the physical toll. You have to just be like, all right, you have to really prepare them mentally to go into the game being ready for that, I guess is how I would say that.
I was just going to ask the question, like, what's easier to prepare for? Like a star player that you know, like, he's like the best player on the team by far, like maybe one of the best players in the country. Like, let's say a Jeremiah Smith. You're going up against Jeremiah Smith. Is that easier to prepare for, or someone like you're talking about that might have like a ton of speed but might not like look at it, like kind of like those like really good players that might not necessarily like stand out, but you know that like come game day, like if you don't take them serious, they could really hurt you defensively?
I think it's easier to game plan for a Jeremiah Smith type guy because you're going to be like, we're always going to roll our coverage to him. Like we're going to have a plan for him and we're going to make sure that he doesn't beat us. Well, you're going to try to do that, obviously, because he's extremely good. But you're going to go into the game like this guy is not going to beat us because we are doing X, Y, and Z. Whereas a guy that like he's a good player, but we might not necessarily be game planning for him. Those guys can go off at any given game, I guess, because things just might work right and might fall into place for them. I would say like in theory, it's easier to game plan for the superstar. Oftentimes that doesn't work. That's why they're the superstar. But like it's a little bit easier to come up with a plan to defend them. Executing that, those are two different things.
So also, what is it like when you have a player like a Malcolm Bell or a Nate Carter who you've mentioned that, just preparing for them and working with them, that you're not surprised that they've succeeded at higher levels. So as a coordinator at one of the, I would say, smaller schools, just in terms of compared to your Power 4, what is that feeling like when you're looking at a kid and going, yeah, this kid can play Power 4?
I think it's good. Like you can tell usually pretty early on, like if a guy has the potential. I think it's about like it feels good to see those guys get opportunities at bigger schools because it's like I help prepare them, I help develop those guys to get to that level. I think a lot of people view the transfer portal in different ways. I think if you're at a smaller school like UConn or a FCS school or even like a group of 5 school and like you get a player and they transfer to a power 4 school or like a big time program, you feel good because like, yeah, it sucks to lose a good player, but at the same time, like you help develop that guy and get them to their potential. And like with Malcolm, like I said, the tools were there. He just needed a little bit of development because he was really raw. But it was kind of like if he stays on it and if he's coached tough and coached well, he will reach that potential. Like some guys just don't have that ceiling, if you will.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anything else you guys got before we go wrap it up?
I actually do have one question, and it's actually not a football question. It's a soccer question because you did mention that
here we go.
Malcolm Bell was Manchester United. Who's your team?
I support Liverpool.
He's not much better. He's a Liverpool guy.
Yeah. No, that's great because right now we're on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like, shoot, we won the Prem last year and went out and spent like $300 million in this transfer window.
You guys
got a whole bunch, revamped the front line, and both of our fullbacks got got new guys there and got some midfielder. Like, we're in a good place right now, so it's a good time to be a Liverpool fan. Premier League is back this weekend after the international break, so I'm excited to watch it.
And are you going to try to attend the World Cup coming to the U.S.? Are you going to try to attend the game if you can?
I don't know. Like, I really want to, but, man, it's, like, so expensive to try to get a ticket. I think you have to, like, enter a lottery system and, like, so you don't know necessarily what game you're going to get. I'm not sure how it all works. Like, I would like to, but I just don't know how realistic it is with how difficult they're making it.
Yeah, hopefully Team USA will perform well.
Yeah, hopefully we can figure it out by then.
Hopefully they haven't looked great outside of their win yesterday against Japan, which was, like people are saying, their BRC team. But we won't talk too much about soccer, even though I'm sure that you'd probably be excited to talk soccer.
Yeah, Coach Horton and I have talked some soccer. I give him a little bit of break for being a Liverpool fan. I'm a Chelsea guy for Premier League, so I gotta give him a little bit of crap every once in a while. But you mentioned they're back this weekend with the Manchester Derby. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah, I don't want to root for Man City, but I mean, seeing Man U lose is always good. So
I'm the same way.
We'll see.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
And I hate rooting against Man City. I like rooting against Man City, but I like Pep. I've always liked Pep.
Yeah,
from
you gotta
days.
respect it.
So
Gotta respect it.
But all right, yeah, we probably just lost all of our audience there. We went from one
audience.
So
I was just going to say it's my fault. I am Graham Couch in their podcast when they talk about soccer. They lose everyone at that point. So that's completely my fault at that point.
Yeah, no. I mean, I could talk soccer for a while. I bet you this is how Emmett feels when Zach and I start going off about hockey too.
I appreciate hockey. I just don't know it entirely, and I spend so much time. I can imagine whatever I spend dedicated to football, Coach Horton probably takes that tenfold. You know, and respect for that. Even as media, I spend too much time with this stuff, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I don't think I could ever be a coordinator at that level.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a lot of time. It is definitely a lot of time.
Well, I'll use that into my little transition here, Emmett, because I'm glad you mentioned that. We appreciate you joining us, Coach Horton. For those of you who in the audience want to know more about Coach, we'll obviously let him plug himself here at the end here, but make sure you go follow this man on YouTube. I've learned so much just watching some YouTube videos with Coach Horton about football in general, and last year with the Monday night pre-show stuff, that was always fun to hang out and chat, and felt like I learned a whole NFL playbook in one little show on what the 49ers were going to do one Monday night. So if you guys like hearing football deep talk, his YouTube channel's got just content for days, so you guys got to definitely follow him. I believe it's just at Jarren Horton, right?
Yep, just at Jarren Horton. And yeah, like, do a little bit of that, do some scheme stuff. The live shows were good. I might try to do a little bit more of those, like, live stream game planning type things, because those were really fun.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. That was fun just to watch and learn a little bit more. I mean, I feel like I know a decent amount about football, and then I tune in and it's like, whoa, I'm nowhere close. So, but no, we appreciate it. I think that's all we had. The only other question I really had for you is when are we going to get you up to East Lansing for a game?
Shoot, man. I'm going to be in Michigan in like next week or something. I'm going out there for a wedding in Detroit or something like that.
Nice.
We are in California.
Yeah, shoot.
Unfortunately, we're coming out
going wrong coast.
Wave high when the planes cross.
I was just going to say, if you want to stay up at Eastern time, it'll be 11 o'clock Eastern time next weekend.
Don't remind me.
Come enjoy that.
That's crazy. I saw that. That's wild. That
completely changed my hotel strategy because I just booked my hotel today. I was looking closer to LAX. Yeah, I'm like, okay, let's find closer to the Coliseum.
Yep.
Yeah, that's wild. I can't believe they did that. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why they would do that.
Especially
TV.
LA. LA is LA on its own thing, but it's not just a football town in its own right. So, like, I don't think people in LA want to go to a football game at 8 o'clock at night their time, let alone. But I digress. But yeah, we appreciate.
I was just going to say we could talk about that a ton. We could have an argument about college and the way that it's formatted now, contact divisions, but we don't have to go into that because that would be another hour and a half.
Honestly.
So, real quick, one thing I just thought of: favorite college campus you either got go to or coach at?
I'll say stadiums because I've definitely
Stadiums, yeah.
Yeah.
And why is the answer Husky Stadium? Because I know you in Seattle.
Yeah. Husky Stadium's up there. The view from the coaches box or like their offices, like they're in the end zone, in the west end zone. They look out over the stadium into Lake Washington. That one's really cool. And then probably LSU that I've been at.
I remember you said, did you? I could be wrong, but did you get to coach in the swamp too?
Yeah. Been to the swamp twice. That one's cool. It's just like the sideline to the stands is like from here to the wall. It's so tight. It's the swamp is pretty crazy. It is. It's an old stadium, but it's a fun experience.
Yeah, I would imagine. No, those are some good choices you named. So yeah, got to get you to East Lansing. I know you got a little Michigan ties. One of these falls, you got to reserve a date and come up, and we'll give you the grand tour.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. That'll be fun.
So we'll get hopefully try to coordinate and get Cybert in town too, and
yes,
for sure,
have some fun. But we appreciate it. Like I said again, went a little longer than I probably told you we would, but I could sit here and talk ball all day. So we appreciate you joining us. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun. Everybody who's watching, go follow Coach Horton. We mentioned his YouTube. I believe same handles on Instagram and Twitter, correct?
Yeah, I think it's all the same.
Yep, making it easy for us. At Jarren Horton. I'll link it obviously in the descriptions and stuff. But we appreciate you tuning in, and good luck with everything coming. Hopefully, seeing you as a head coach somewhere soon.
Hopefully we'll see.
I'll start my Twitter campaigns again, and we'll get it going. So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, but we appreciate it. Everybody, thanks so much for tuning in. It's been another fun one. We will be back next week with the recap of the episodes or of the game, and I don't know.
I'll have a rapid reaction on Saturday as well. Hopefully I'll actually get it out Saturday as opposed to Sunday morning. Definitely not happening next week, but this week we'll try to get it out on Saturday, we promise.
Yeah, and then we'll have the episode next week at some point. Maybe Emmett might have to record it on the plane out to LA, but we'll get it to you one way or the other.
For sure.
So, but for Zach and Emmett and for Coach Horton, thanks everybody for tuning in. And as always, go green.
Go white.
And stop.